9:30 in the morning. We welcome everybody to the Kentwood County Commission meeting. We're just going over real quickly. Our case count is up to 31. We know Jackson County has 100, primarily at a nursing home. If there's anyone hospitalized, they're probably hospitalized at our facility. The social distancing aspect of this continues. Our drive-through on Dudley is open Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9:30 a.m. There are people utilizing it. We do know that everybody's getting their absentee ballot in the mail, or the request to get an absentee ballot. If you do fill it out and want to return it, it's a good idea to put it in an envelope and a proper stamp on the outside. Bob was correct. There is an option to drop it off or toss it in one of our drive-thrus. Sheriff's tax.
Mark has a can on the front porch of the courthouse.
He sure does.
The fountain.
If somebody wants to drop it off instead of mailing it, you're certainly welcome, although we would prefer you did not and continue to stay at home as best as possible. The governor still has a stay-home order. We know that not this past Saturday, the Saturday before last, the health department issued a ruling that included 2 per 1,000 square feet for grocery stores and other essential businesses. The state released 3 per 1,000 statewide. When we look at the map for West Virginia, we still have counties with 0 cases. Doddridge, Ritchie, Calhoun, Gilmer, Clay, Webster, and the outlier, Pocahontas. So I guess nobody's going up to Snowshoe and hanging out for the weekend.
Clay is so hard to get to that nobody wants to go there, including the germ.
Clay is difficult to get to, as is Calhoun. And I heard there was dudes with pickup trucks and deer rifles making sure you didn't come in. That is not true. It is funny. But I've been to Calhoun recently. Well, not since the COVID broke out. And it is a tight stretch to get into Calhoun. There is a pool, Dr. Warden in Ritchie County. Still believes Ritchie County may win. I have my hopes set on Calhoun or Clay. But when you look at a map of the U.S., it's amazing. Appalachia, America, that runs from central PA through West Virginia down into Virginia and Kentucky, has very low spread.
Also Montana, going the other way. Montana, I think South Dakota.
So when the president says he looks at certain states to open back up, West Virginia would be one of the quicker states to open. And in my little rental car business, we had people that were renting cars to go to Florida since the beaches are open. So if we open up the state of West Virginia, we will see people travel into our state, North Bend. I talked to a gentleman that believed that the camper sales and RV sales would skyrocket.
Bob Ashley told me this weekend that that's one of the reasons why the governor closed the state parks, because they were full of people from the East Coast with their whatever they had to go to our parks. So he just eliminated those people from traveling by closing them down.
As the weather gets nicer, we did close the campground at Mountwood. North Bend closed their campground and lodge. But the pressure to reopen, I don't think our governor's seeing it. I think the ballooning cases in Jackson and Wayne County kind of gave us pause. If those nursing homes would have stayed safe, we may have been on a faster track to reopen. Berkeley County and Mon County are still holding relatively the same. But with Wood only having 31, we're really in good shape. Let's just hope and I know our governor has brought in the National Guard to try to test every resident and worker at every nursing home in West Virginia. That's going to be a swab that they send off to a lab and await results.
Is that the 7 to 14-day return?
So it'll be a lag, but they're supposed to be out and about per media. See, News and Sentinel. There's the Jackson County, and it's a shame.
The governor made a statement there that if all the states had labs that they could incorporate for testing, do you know of any labs in West Virginia? I don't know that would be available.
Yes, I've been working with some folks, and there's questions I've posed to say, what is our key competence in West Virginia to be able to test for this? What laboratories? The state has a laboratory, the State Department of Health, WVU, Marshall, all have laboratories, but are they able to do this? I have not got a response.
Larry, I'm sure you're familiar with this, but listening to national news, they sort of make you believe that we're finding a bunch of new labs to start, but they don't realize that because of the drug problems we've had nationally, there's a lot of testing companies doing this. Maybe not the proper kind for looking for the virus, but there's a lot of testing companies out there.
I have not got a response. I've been trying to get a hold of Abbott Laboratories. They offer a machine. I'll try to find it here.
Is that the 5-hour test or 2-hour test?
Yeah, that's a quick turnaround test. It's called the ID Now. And it looks to be an expensive piece of kit. They have this unit. It's a tabletop. I have it up on the big screen. It's a tabletop unit. It takes a cassette. So we take the swab, we put it in the cassette, it goes in the machine, and you get a result. 5 to 15 minutes. It's a one-at-a-time machine. And the question mark is, how much does it cost? So I would believe that the feds have bought every ID now that Abbott Lab can make. So the president said Abbott Labs is going to get up to 50,000 tests a day. That is the cassette that plugs into the ID Now. I don't know how many ID Now machines are being made, but I've emailed Abbott, I've emailed everybody I can think of. If we could acquire one, we would, through the West Virginia Drug Testing Labs, if nothing else. But it also is a matter of, are they $100,000? Are they $500,000?
You're familiar with testing all the time because of the blood lab, but
Right.
you know, if you listen to these national politicians saying, some of the national politicians, that we should not open as a country until everybody is tested. I don't see how you get 325 million people tested, or you have enough certified people to test that many people.
There's so many what ifs. I mean, someone was saying they had a line on FDA approved blood tests to test for, to see if you had that in you. And the problem is the FDA has said, we want to get this to market so fast, self-test yourself, let's roll. And talking to some lab people, even if I do a little Petri dish type of, you have to send it somewhere else to get it confirmed. Then you find out the CDC was sending those out and they were defective. So there's Chinese companies mass marketing COVID tests with results in a half hour, which I don't believe. You're just throwing your money away. My hope is that an ID Now from Abbott Labs, and there's another lab that makes a big piece of equipment called Roche Pharmaceutical, but that thing looks to be awesomely expensive.
Marty, do we get any calls on testing like this, or are they all channeled to the health department? How do you do that?
We haven't had any calls.
You haven't had any calls?
If I did, I would probably refer to the health.
Yeah, Roche says they'll have an antibody test system within weeks. But we're really unsure what type of equipment you would have to be able to do so. But I think I have to find my mail.
Larry, I'm getting a request that you ask the people to meet their phones.
If you're not going to ask a question, please mute your phones on the call. You can unmute if you have a question. Mr. Sufer, you had a guy that asked some questions of the commission, called into your office when we were on this. Got a hold of Angie. He said he was asking questions that we address it publicly. It sounded interesting about our funding of something. I recall this conversation.
It's been a while back.
That's hotel tax also.
Do you have a text from Angie about it?
There was I remember faintly, I know you were talking to Marty here, but somebody asked us to break down how we're going to
Oh, yeah,
raise taxes.
they want to do basically how we were handling the money. And they made us the fire fee, the 911 fee, and
How we're going to levy the taxes.
how it's used.
Well, the fire fee's online. The 911 is online.
And has to be used for that.
It only has to be used for 911. The fire fee money is spent by the departments, but when they request a check, they're sent in to Mark's office and he prepares. But it only can be used for specific purposes.
And our budget's online. I mean, everything's online on our website.
And if anybody has any more specific requests, we're willing to address them.
And the taxes will be the same as last year.
Yeah, the tax rate's the same, so we're not late.
We're not levying any taxes.
Now,
Those people must not know that we have all this stuff online. What's a proper way for them to get to us on the internet, Blair?
well, we can go right there. Wood County, West Virginia, and the Google bar, Wood County, West Virginia home. Frequently asked questions.
Blair, back to the subject of nursing homes, you know, we have a facility in Wood County that is not a nursing home, but it's elder care. It's Wingate. Wonder if anybody's thought about testing that.
My understanding, Bob, and I have my mother's in that facility, my understanding is they are all gonna be tested.
That's good, that's great.
I got to assume with all the problems they have with congregation of older people, including the one on 23rd Street there, they will all be tested.
You're talking about the,
Colonial House.
Colonial House, yes, that facility ought to be tested.
I'm sure they are tested, Bob.
Yeah, we'll verify, we have some emails out to the health department. We can also do that.
Lindsay
But
should-
under our website under county clerk is all of our purchase orders, vendor lists, financial statements, and audit reports, budget reports, detail fund reports. So if we go to detail fund reports, you can go to fire fee.
For Marty, do we have paperwork to sign in the next day or two?
Yes, there isn't a bunch, but yes, there is some.
Okay.
And then, don't forget that tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, you guys will lay the levy.
Right, I got that in the way.
Okay.
Anyway,
You
there's
probably have Lindsay on there.
the fire fee report, there's the 911 for January, it's up. So if you want to see how they're spending their money, you can go and look. It's all online. And there's even a general county report. So we're lagging right now, but I know our clerk is wrapped up in election. But you can find all the information online. Interesting stuff.
Because Lindsay might be online.
Lindsay,
I'm here.
all right, you're on our agenda.
How's everyone doing?
We're doing very well.
Good.
See,
Well, I'm
industrial
calling
road
because-
access grant.
What'd you say?
I said industrial road access grant.
That's right. So each fiscal year, each county can apply for up to $400,000 in industrial access road grants. This year, Wood County hasn't had anyone apply. In fact, the last I heard, no one in the state has had an applicant thus far. But we had Sterling Packaging come forward after our office took a trip to Conley Fabrication before all the pandemic stay-at-home orders were enacted. And they finished their facility in 2018. You have 2 years from that date to apply for the funds for the industrial access road. So they're looking to utilize the funds to finish Conley Drive to their plant. There's no match required. The funding is for $400,000 in unmatched funds. So what it'll do is it'll finish that road. It's at no cost to us or to the county or to them. And they anticipate that their new plant will allow them to add 10 new jobs for a total of 30 in the next 3 years.
Would that in the form of a motion?
I'll make that motion if nobody else has.
Thank you, Bob.
Yes.
I'll second it.
I'll make it unanimous. There is some requirements for them to do this, like sharing their financials or anything, or they have to adhere to the state of West Virginia's Commerce Department, right?
So how we're doing it, you can do it a couple of different ways, but how we've done it traditionally is we allow the Department of Highways to take over the bid process. The Department of Highways will be building the road. Since there's no match required and we anticipate that this road will be covered by the money, they probably won't have to turn in any financials. What they do turn over to us, and they already have, is proof of a deed of trust. They also have to be up to date on their taxes, and they have to give information on total annual payroll benefits and things of that nature, which we have everything collected at this point. The resolution from you all is the last thing that we need to submit the application to the Department of Commerce.
So actually then, you have all the credentials that you have on file, and we have the state of West Virginia doing all the oversight.
Correct.
Yeah, make it unanimous. I hope it goes smooth and
Strong.
increase their capacity.
Where's their building?
Thank you.
That'll go well with the traffic light out there at that site, so.
They have the,
I saw some work being done on the traffic light coming from.
they have all the post up for the traffic light, Bob.
It'll help calm
There's
them.
four posts out there, or metal posts anyway.
They had a problem with burning pallets at one time, I think DEP took
Oh,
it.
yeah, I remember that, yeah.
So I think that they are secure. Thank you, Lindsay. Anything else good going on you'd like to brief us on?
Well, I shared this today with our members, so I wanted to share it again, in case you all have anyone that's interested. But obviously, the Paycheck Protection Program through the SBA ran out of funds last week. We anticipate that Congress will vote to replenish those funds today or tomorrow. And so we're encouraging people to get their applications ready, and proof of their payroll. So, we have the information on our website that someone would need as well as the application, but I'm encouraging people that if they want to utilize those funds and they didn't get in the first round, to make sure that their applications are complete, because I anticipate that again, they will cap out the funds and they'll do so quickly. West Virginia got $1.3 billion out of $349 billion, so I think there's definitely a lot more people that could have utilized that program. We just want to help people apply. So people are free to call or email me if they need help, and we'll walk them through that.
Yeah, my application didn't get in that first round, so hopefully this next round.
Yeah, exactly. I'd get it ready to go. I think
Oh,
we
yeah,
have better
it's
luck
in
this
the
time.
hopper.
I think some of the kinks will be out. Right.
Lindsay, did you have something that needed a sewer extension also?
We're still figuring that out. I might have to call back in next week. And just so you're all aware, I had a conversation with Bob. We're still working, we actually are working with 3 attraction projects still, that are full speed ahead. One of those may need a sewer line extension, but we're waiting for more details. The USDA got additional funding through the CARES Act, and so we're in the Philadelphia region, and the regional council is trying to get applications in as soon as possible, because we're also in New York City region, so we anticipate that they'll eat up a lot of those funds. But they can be used for public investment, water, sewer, things of that nature. So we're trying to figure out in Wood County what we'll need to apply. So once I figure that out a little bit more, I may need a letter of support from you all, but we're not quite there yet.
Who's doing your background work on the needs of the water systems?
The regional council.
What kind of activity do you have on new business in the community?
Well, it's all manufacturing and industrial related right now. We had 5 going into the pandemic. 2 of them are on hold right now. 3 are moving forward. One of them is a relocation. Actually, 2 of them are relocations from other states. So this would be their first move to West Virginia. They're not here right now. The other is actually an international company that's looking here. But again, all manufacturing. One of them, we're just trying to find a building that works. I had said to Bob, we have one identified. The electric service isn't quite where it needs to be. The building that they like has 200 amps. They need 1,500 amps. So we're trying to figure out if we can maybe work with the state to incentivize them by upgrading the electric. But we're keeping busy during this time. I'm pleasantly surprised.
I don't recall, did I tell you that Mr. Conley was interested in that he would build a building for somebody on his property up there?
Yes, I met with Roger too. Part of the problem is the company that's looking for a building right now needs to move within 3 months. So they're on a really tight timeline, so they wouldn't be able to get a building built. We always try to share with folks the people who we know that have land or developers who are willing to do build-to-suits, which is almost all of our developers. Unfortunately, sometimes the timeline just doesn't fit. And And I thought of Rogers Building too, but they need a building that's 40,000 square feet, and Rogers is a little bit too small.
Can I add something about the PPP plan, the triple P?
Sure.
I've been asked this several times, and I don't know why I'm being asked this, but people must remember that if you do get money on your triple P for payroll and stuff, it's not your responsibility as a borrower to worry about who employees you have are collecting money for unemployment or the stipend that Congress gave them. The main goal when you receive that money is to spend that money. If you spend it within the allotted time, it turns from a loan to a grant. So you can't worry about who's giving other people money. That's the federal government's and the state government's responsibility, not the borrower.
Sure, and what I keep telling people is, so this program, you can apply for 2.5 times your average payroll for a month, but they base it off of 12 months. So you have to use 75% of the funds that you get for payroll expenses. And in order for it to be forgiven, you have to document that. So we're trying to tell people, if you utilize QuickBooks, make a separate fund, put the PPP money in it, and then show that you're paying, your payroll from those funds, so the federal government doesn't think that you're putting it into a general operating fund and you think that way. You can use 25% of it for rent, mortgage, utilities, those types of things. But again, you have to document that you're only using 25% of those funds. So that's the business's main objective, is to prove that one, they kept employees on the payroll, and two, they have to document that they spent it in the correct manner, in the correct amount. I don't see how any business could keep track of what their personal employees are doing in their personal lives.
Lindsay, you also, I'm doing it. I made an Excel account for that purpose, 25% for what you said about there, and also 75% for the payroll, and document each payroll number that you pay for your federal, for your 941. You just document the numbers down, so you'll have a separate spreadsheet to be able to give back to your lender.
Right. Yeah, there's no formal way to keep track of it, just as long as you can turn in at the end of the 8-week period, saying that you did utilize the funds for the proper thing. I've been told that they anticipate people will be fine. You just have to keep some sort of record, whether it's Excel, QuickBooks, via your accountant. Again, if you all run into anyone that has questions, you can give them my cell phone number or my email. I'm happy to help them walk through it.
I know you're offering a resource, as is the Chamber of Commerce with Joe Parsons. I get tons of email, as well as Regional Council. Everybody wants to help. And that's the giving nature of Wood County. Everybody wants to help everybody else. It's a critical need for some businesses. But as I sit here with Howard, I think what 2.5 months will do for me. But I don't have business. So great, my employees will come off unemployment, go onto my payroll for 2.5 months, and then if we're not out of the woods, you know what I mean? It's difficult.
Yeah, I think that's the worry with everyone, and I think you'll find if it continues much longer, they'll have to reevaluate how long the PPP can be used for. And I do agree, there are a lot of people out there trying to help, and I think sometimes, personally, I think West Virginia's number of allotted dollars was really low if you look at the overall, and I don't know if it's because, again, people didn't apply in time, or maybe they didn't know how to apply, or they don't have accountants, but that's why groups like mine and Jill and the Chamber and the Regional Council, we want to help because, like Jimmy said, there's ways around having QuickBooks. You can show those things in other ways. We want to make sure people get in there, and if it gets past the time that the 8 weeks covers, we're in contact too, as I'm sure you all are, with the senator's offices and the Congressman McKinley's office, and we'll be sure to tell them those things if it's not enough at a certain point. But right now, we're just working with what we've got.
Somewhere in this conversation, I want to repeat something here. I don't think it's the borrower of the money's responsibility to worry about if his employee is on getting a check from unemployment. The borrower responsibility is to pay us a certain amount of money and to spend the money they gave you. If you don't spend the money they gave you, nothing else matters. That'll turn into a loan instead of a stipend, instead of a freebie.
I looked at the one
Correct. And
credit
Sorry, go
facility.
ahead.
I looked at one credit facility, and it was, the minimum loan was $1 million. And that was, I actually texted a former banker. We got really detailed in it. But the credit facilities, banks are being pressured with the low hold rate to loan money. And the federal government wants to back that loan up. So,
Ruth Christie in Chicago received a PPP amount of $120 million.
the Main Street Lending Program is what it's called. Yeah, and the guy that owns Shake Shack returned $10 million.
And not that I'm an advocate of Fox, which I probably am, but the finance guy there tells people, get the money and spend it in your business.
That's the whole idea.
That's the whole idea. Or else you may
And I
not have a
also want to
business.
share with
Please do.
you all, if you didn't see, there's, the U.S. Chamber is releasing small business grants. You have to have 3 to 20 employees to qualify. The application goes live today at 3 p.m. and you can get $5,000 grant to use for your business. So I encourage people to apply for that as soon as possible today to the application on our website, or you could type in U.S. Chamber of Commerce Small Business Grant.
Are there any special needs for that or requirements?
You just have to have 3 to 20 employees. I think the whole point of that is to your exact point, Ruth Chris Steakhouse getting all that money. I think people wanted to turn around and really actually help small businesses who are struggling. I was really surprised when I read that they got all of those funds. And I'm sure a lot of people did it because one way that you could get around it if you have a good attorney is if you were 500 people or under, you qualified, and they kind of separated those by location. So obviously Ruth Chris probably has well over 500 employees, but not at each location,
They used
as did Shake Shack.
a number of $525 million for their payroll and things to start with.
Well,
Right.
they missed a zero.
Yeah, must have.
Added a zero by mistake. We see it all the time.
Before you hang up, Lindsay, thank you for all you're doing in your good work.
Oh, my pleasure. If anyone needs anything, let me know. We're here to help.
All right.
Love it.
Thanks, Lindsay.
I will.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Thank you.
Bob, you got some more for us?
The only thing I can think of, I saw a list of states that they think are gonna open first, and guess what state's on it? Ohio. What's gonna happen if Ohio opens and West Virginia is still closed?
It'll be the other way around, Bob. West Virginia will open first.
That thing that you read, Bob, had 20 states in it, and they didn't say the whole state would open. This part of the state might open. But we are, if you looked at the chart that was on Yahoo this week, we in Montana and South Dakota are the states that have all less than 1,000 cases, and they expect us to open by the first week in May.
They have to put state troopers on the borderline then.
Good, let them
keep
do
them
it.
out or check them in. Check their temperature as they come in.
Model projects show that Vermont, West Virginia, Montana, and my favorite, well, West Virginia, my second favorite, which I've never been, would be Hawaii. Could open as early as May 4th. As I said, this weekend I rented 2 vehicles for people that went to the beaches in Florida. Not a state that's open. A lot of faith in their hands to go down there. Took small SUVs, so I figured they took tents or pulled a trailer. But anyway, our state parks will be full if we open them up. People will come
From the east.
from the east and from Ohio, but I would prefer we not open first, that I rent a bunch of cars to go to the states that do. But they're saying Vermont, West Virginia, Montana, and nobody's gonna drive to Hawaii. Other places that might open mid to late May include Iowa, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Utah, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. The Midwest, the breadbasket, where all our food's made. So we have that going for us.
Yeah, we do.
We have the second wave we all think will happen sometime. But I'll help. I don't like that doctor. Bob, you're feeling well?
Well, staying well. How about, our county parks? Are we closed or open?
We have Mountwood Park, we closed the campground and the ATV trails. The horse camp is closed. We still see people utilizing the lake because once again, the governor allowed no fishing licenses. You can fish without a license, I should say. We've heard people say the turkey hunters are out. They're not out at Mountwood. The gates are still closed at Veterans, and Fort Borman is open dawn to dusk, or open dawn to dusk.
Veterans, we've been getting some pressure to open it from people that wanna use it. It wasn't
I
scheduled.
see we have walkers up in Fort Borman. And I've seen some activity under the shelters, so I think it's open.
Yeah, dawn to dusk, and then we're getting pressure to open Veterans. And what do you think on that, Mr. Suford?
I don't think we should, that's not a park that has trail systems or really lends itself to social distancing because it's basically used for the playground and shelter. So I would say we just follow the state lead on that.
Yeah,
Keep it closed, and plus we're taking this opportunity to replace rough sun shelters
okay.
and do some replacement
Marty,
stone.
we would happen to open those, picking up the refuse and stuff like that, that would be our responsibility. And I don't know if we're geared for that right now.
Right.
So,
Where we did receive the $100,000 check from our governor, so.
We'll have to have a big discussion about that.
Yeah, it's very, very distinct. He only has 3 things you can spend it.
Which is,
First is necessary expenditures incurred due to the public health emergency with respect to COVID-19 pandemic. Second is were not accounted for in the budget most recently approved as of March 27, 2020. That's the date of enactment of the CARES Act for your county or municipality. And number 3, were or will be incurred during the period that begins March 1st, 2020 and ends on December 30th, 2020. It goes on to say that you cannot, it's not meant to backfill local budgets or to pay ordinary expenses of the county or the municipalities. It goes on to say you cannot, the only pay it will cover, it will pay overtime pay for law enforcement, paramedics and other first responders.
But it's not going as far as the people that work in the grocery stores or,
I don't even think you can use it to boost
Hourly wages.
hourly wages. I mean, it's strictly overtime.
That's the way it should be, because $100,000 seems like a lot of money, but if you go divide it between tons of people, it's nothing.
And we're gonna be held accountable. We have to file, we have to set up a separate fund, and we have to file every single penny we spend.
I was at a local grocery store yesterday. And the people, the employees, I would say 1/3 were wearing masks. 1/3, not the mask wearers, were wearing gloves. And 2/3 of the employees had no PPE on. I didn't ask if that was being supplied by their employer or if they were bringing their own. I know at my little business, we have homemade masks as we interact with the public and deliver a car to the hospital. I mean, we're going right into the teeth of it. But PPE has been a problem. Mr. Woodyard, you on the phone?
Yes, sir.
Have you had luck sourcing PPE?
Well, as I advised last week, we changed the process at midstream on us, and we just today got the second sheet that we have to fill out, tracking sheet to send in, and we did request further PPE. On my 9 o'clock emergency managers meeting this morning, some counties are getting ready to receive some this week. However, the amounts that were requested were cut drastically on the amount they will be receiving. So
That's from-
we don't know what we're going to be receiving yet, but hope to know by midday tomorrow.
Receiving from the state?
Correct.
Okay. Is there sources if we went outside of the state to purchase? Or are they all dry?
We have already, we've gone into this with your all's approval. We purchased 5,000 masks, 5,000 gloves, and eyewear, eye protection. We did receive some medium gloves, eye protection, which we did distributed out to the LE people, and the back order is still on file for the masks.
Where can you buy
the-
masks? Can't buy masks, okay.
Where can you buy right now, so you can't buy them anywhere.
That's what I know, I've been trying to buy some masks, and I can't do
Well,
it.
that's what,
Yeah, the federal government is seizing all imported masks. When they come into the ports, they're being seized by customs and then sent to the national stockpile. So if you've ordered some, it's coming in from overseas, it's being seized immediately and sent to the national stockpile.
well, that's why, I mean, at some point in time, they'll start reopening, things will get lighter. But we think there'll be a second wave. I mean, medical guys are saying so. We just want to be the first. As soon as this dies down a little bit, we need to create the county stockpile. And I talked to, yes, sir?
We didn't cancel the order. Our intent is to keep the order active, and when we get it, to do exactly that, and get with some of our stakeholders in the stockpile, county stockpile, as well as a rotation of that stock in and out. So those masks have a 5-year shelf life, so every 4 years we need to look at a rotation and putting the ones that will expire the next year out for service, so they just don't go to waste.
I had a good discussion with one of our local mayors, and he also believes that participating in a county stockpile for our cities, for our nursing homes, for our frontline workers. Big Jim Justice said he wanted to honor the heroes in this. And that's one of the biggest ways I think we could help, is trying to get masks and PPE and hand sanitizer and all that good stuff to make sure we keep those people safe.
Correct. Rick's expenses are part of your $100,000. That's, you need to keep track of that for Oh, yes, sir. And
There's other
also,
ways we can that.
Yeah, there's other ways we can get that
and
money
also
back.
we can ask for reimbursement of the public assistance grant that's also available, but you're correct on that, Commissioner.
Thank you, Rick.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you, Rick.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Sufer, anything else for the good?
Just
of the
remind you of the meeting tomorrow at 10, so it shouldn't just take a few minutes just to lay the letter. I'll have a number just like today.
Oh, that's good, thank you.
Mr. Commissioner Colombo, anything else for the good of the order?
No, I just hope that there is a second wave, that they'll use realistic numbers this time as opposed to the humongous numbers that they use on this first wave. You know, they were probably 70% high on a lot of their requests and things. It scares the hell out of people, you know.
Well,
It's scary anyway. I mean, I understand that.
my personal opinion is if we do everything 100% right and we get really low numbers, that's great.
Yep.
It's just great. I
Well,
know that Jim, Governor Justice is trying his very best to help the counties. I know that it's an election year. That makes it more difficult. But we'll try our very best.
make a motion to disband.
Adjourn.
10:17.
Second.